Tomjanovich said, Martin, now 你应该跟他说，你要告诉他他应该跑步，你应该跑步，你跑步，你跑步，你跑步。I said, hey, Yao Ming, he's telling you, you gotta run, you gotta run, you gotta run, you gotta get in condition. And Yao Ming looked at me and he said, what in the world are you talking about? That's all we do in China. That's what I've done since I've been a little boy. And it didn't resonate with him. And Rudy said, keep telling him. He's got to get in condition. He's got to run. Now, some of us may say, Clark may say, well, he wasn't in good condition when he came. But you know, for him, it didn't resonate. He came from China, and he thought, why in the world is the first thing that this guy, he didn't say, ni hao, ni zhenmiyang, ni lei bu lei, miao miao. He didn't say any of that to me. He didn't connect with me. He didn't see how I'm doing. He didn't ask me, ni chirp on the mail. You know, they also always told me never to keep anyone from their food. But the first thing, you know what the first thing people will ask you? How many of you have been to China? I know a lot of you have. What's one thing that they ask you in China? If you know Chinese, I'll tell you what they ask you. Ni chirp on the mail. You know what that means? Have you eaten? Have you eaten? Why do they ask you that? Because to be a good host and to be a good connector, I have to make sure you've eaten. I can't talk to you about sports. I can't talk to you about motivation. I can't talk to you about cross-cultural values or motivation unless your belly's full. You can see I don't let my belly go empty very often. You know, I grew up in a German family where my grandmother would pull me by the ear and say, Martin, you got to eat more. It's all her fault. So, you know, tell my wife, who is Chinese, it's my grandma's fault, you know. Some people say I wasn't breastfed. I say it was my grandma's fault. So, you know, Yao Ming is saying, Martin, why hadn't he asked me if I've eaten? Why is he just telling me to run? Why is he telling me? He was so confused standing there. He was, Yao Ming was with the FIFA, I think, isn't that the Federation of International Sports or whatever. He wasn't even in the NBA yet when I met him. I was out in Los Angeles just 4 weeks ago. Los Angeles Dodgers had me come to their spring training. And they said, hey, Martin, I want you to speak to the athletes. And I said, okay, well, what do you want me to talk about? And they said, I don't know, because the athletes will be late when you arrive. They won't listen to you when you're there. They won't pay attention. They don't know what's going on. So I get in the room. There's about 200 athletes. How many of them do you think English was their first language? 20. 180 ball players from different countries around the world, most of them from the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, they spoke Spanish. They didn't care about, you know, my motivational talk on work styles, habits, lifestyles, and customs, but they did care when I started talking about their home country. They cared when I said, you know what, the values and the culture to get ahead, to be successful. You could have heard a pin drop in that room because I connected with them culturally, right where they spoke in their language. They wanted to know how to be successful. These are players who would start out in rookie ball, or they'd go to A ball, or they'd go to double A ball. I didn't need to tell them how to run or how to jump. I didn't need to tell them, you know, I actually did need to tell them, you know, like in a double play, the signals and things like that. But, you know, they knew that they were motivated. You go down the road here, how far is Jupiter, Florida from where we're at, do you know? We work with the St. Louis Cardinals. Every day, we're with the St. Louis Cardinals. We're with their A ball and their rookie ball down in Jupiter, Florida, and we're helping about 100 non-native English-speaking athletes get their dream. How do we do that? As Mike Wong was saying, we do it not only through language, but we do it through connecting cultures and connecting people, our lifestyles, our beliefs. Things are different. And sometimes we say, wow, Martin, he's really strange. Or Clark, he's really a weird guy. Clark, you know, why does he do that? Clark, why are you holding your pen in your hand like that? You know, why do you have your elbow cocked like that? And what we're doing is we're really doing something called misattribution. It's attributing meaning or motive to someone's behavior based upon one's own cultural experience. You know, we do what we've been taught, don't we? That's sort of, you know, the only thing we can do sometimes, unless we've had these cross-cultural experiences, unless we've gone beyond our boundaries, unless We've learned about what motivates other people, other players, what their values are, how to get them where they need to go. And so that's what we've been doing with the LPGA for the last year and a half. We come in and we get to do seminars and we get to talk to them about connecting with fans and sponsors and the media and how to connect even with the other players. And so really what we talked to them about a few things, and I'm going to keep it brief so you guys can all get to lunch. We talked to them about things like surroundings. You know, I was in my bathroom this morning. I'm staying over in this nice hotel, and I got this thing in the bathroom called an oatmeal bar. And I started to open it, and I was going to eat it. And you guys think I'm crazy. But that's what people from other cultures really do. You know, they don't know that an oatmeal bar, doesn't that sound like something tasty to eat? Here, you want that? That's for you. And then, are you guys all staying there? So let's parse this language. You know, I'm a linguist, graduated from IU with a PhD. We can talk about the socio-cultural, you know, positive and negative values of language. And I still haven't made you laugh, though. You know, that's still my goal here. But let me read this to you. I'm just going to read a little bit of it to you. How many of you read your thing here? Yeah, I read everything. I'm a crazy. I love cultures. I love languages. You know, when I did my PhD, I had to learn over 20 languages. And people say, how many languages can you speak? Don't ask anybody that question. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, we're connected, aren't we? But anyway, language here said, welcome to an unspoiled 230-acre escape nestled among the cypress trees along historic Shingle Creek, the headwaters to the legendary Florida Everglades, a mystical retreat named for the cypress shingles that shelter the creek's original settlers, promising a unique balance of luxury and business savvy. The architecture, reminiscent of days past, perfectly complements the enchanting flora, fauna, and wildlife that create the inviting backdrop. A new and beautiful bit of history begins. What is that? What did they just say here? You know, and people are coming from other cultures, and they're coming from other countries, and we're putting them in hotels, we're putting them in locker rooms, we're putting them on the biggest stage of the world in front of cameras, you know, trying to connect with athletes on their team, and it sounds like a beautiful flora and fauna, a historical, I don't even know what that says. And they really just don't get it. They really don't get connected. They don't get connected with their teammates because you know what? Their teammate from China is a little bit quieter. And the teammate from Korea isn't, you know, just jumping out there and saying, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? Hey, and slapping arms. You know, and they're saying, this guy, he's stuck up, he doesn't, you know, he doesn't really like me, and so they're misattributing what's going on. So we try to come in and we try to help people look at their surroundings, and then we try to help them look at time. So because of time, I'm not going to look at time. How about that? See, I'll really go through it. Team dynamics, caution and auspiciousness. Everybody said I had to take out the word auspiciousness, but I will never take it out of one of my presentations because I love... What is auspiciousness? Do you know what auspiciousness is? Come on, who knows auspiciousness? When did the opening ceremony of the Olympics in China, when did that start, guys? August what? August 8th, at what time? 8:08 p.m., right? Why is that auspicious or good? In their language, in their culture, everything is auspicious. I mean, heck, I come home, my wife's Chinese, and my wife said, it's not auspicious for you to put your shoes there by the front door. And I'm saying, oh, but for the Chinese, they embrace all the auspiciousness. And so these players are coming in from other cultures, and you're asking them, you know, we want you to get up at 7 o'clock, and we want you to do these things, and we want you to be ready, and we want you to... And they're saying, well, that's not an auspicious time. They're thinking, that's not an auspicious time. Wouldn't it be better if we came in at 8:08, and we did this thing in 8s, and you gave me 8 golf clubs, and you gave me 8 oranges, and then we could 8 together, which we're going to do in a minute here. But 8:08 means fa, or... you know, fatai, which means to get more wealth. The Chinese believe if you do something at 8:08, you will be very successful. And it will resonate with everybody. Everybody in China, 1.2 billion people, knew why they did 8:08 p.m. on August 8th, 2008. The Western world may not have, but there's a lot of auspiciousness. You know, we have to establish team relations. We have to talk about humility and just the thinking. You know, I have indirect and direct thinking, and I have all these points, and I know I can't go into them. But we really have to look at what are people thinking about? Where are they coming from? What paradigm are they thinking about? You know, I said, one of my jokes is, there's 6.9 billion people in the world, and people ask me to come in and speak in companies and in organizations and help them to sort of get together. And I say, you know, I still have a hard time with my Chinese wife getting together, but I learn a lot. So, you know, communication, direct versus indirect, you know, keeping faith, verbal versus nonverbal, the cues and clues. So we talk about these things, the hierarchy, decision-making, deference, use of name and titles. All these things are important, guys. They're very, very important to the people we're interacting with every day on a global stage. And so, you know, really what we're trying to get to is we're trying to get to this team relationship, that teams or organizations or businesses are working well together, that we're building a global community that helps each other. And so really I ran through that very, very quickly for the sake of time, and so no one else falls asleep. But you can get us there. That's where we're at. And I don't know if you still have time for questions and answers here, but I'll wrap up here.
Yeah, we do have time for questions and answers. For either, is Mike still here? For either Mike or for Martin? Any questions? Yes, Ashley.
This is for Martin. When you worked with different organizations, obviously what we do is train our athletes, and we struggle with that. We do a lot of it online. It's in English. Even if we translate it into other languages, doesn't mean that they're getting it. Is that something that you work with teams, or how time we know to build them takes years and hours, and so then to reframe each module, each one into the appropriate culture and language, how do you accomplish that?
Yeah, you really do have to look at sort of where the culture has come from. That's a great question, because I think what she's really saying is, yeah, you can take something in one language and you can put it in another language by translating it, but it doesn't mean the cultural nuances will be there. So how do you help someone get there? How do you help them to understand really what the heart is? And we say, you know, you really have to get with the people. I mean, Mike was saying, you know, when there's a rain delay at the LPGA that how many girls text you? 150 girls. They don't text me. They run at me, you know. So we were down in Mobile, Alabama, and they're like, Martin, come. And so really what we're doing is we're taking that information that has been translated and we're talking through with them. We're connecting the dots for them. We're helping them to understand it. It's called schema, or schema building, or developing. You know, if I start talking to you maybe about women's fashion, you immediately connect. You have your experiences, you have your background, you have your knowledge. Or if I say, you know, I love my mom, I love my wife, I love McDonald's. People get that referent. But, you know, the word love has no meaning just by itself in a translated form. It only is connected schematically through the experiences you've had in your life, in your culture. So love can be very different. A Chinese or an Asian person rarely says, I love McDonald's or I love a restaurant. And so what we try to do is we try to build that through seminars, one-on-one, team-building exercises, letting them unpack, ask questions, because it is very, very difficult for them just to read it and get it.
Anybody else? Well, I've got a question for Mike. I was reading an article two articles, a point counterpoint, in a tennis magazine recently, and the question was, how important to the growth of tennis globally is the development of the American game, and having elite Americans up at